You're now listening to Sound Talent Media. Check out more shows at soundtalentmedia.com.
Shopify grows your business no matter how far or big you grow. Shopify is the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business. Whether you're selling your fans' next favorite shirt or an exclusive piece of podcast merch, Shopify helps you sell everywhere. Shopify powers 10% of all e-commerce in the U.S. Allbirds, Rothy's, Brooklinen, and millions of other entrepreneurs of every size across 175 countries. Plus, Shopify's award-winning help is there to support your success every step of the way. Because businesses that grow, grow with Shopify. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/income, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/income now to grow your business, no matter what stage you're in.
What is up, good people? Welcome back to another episode of the podcast. Yes, this is another one of those intros that sounds a little different. I'm outside doing some work, and I realized I needed to record this real quick, so that is what I'm doing. Today, I am talking to Cassandra and Clark from AmpRx, otherwise known as BrownBox. You've probably seen this device around. We dive into what it is, why you might need one, and what is going on with the voltage coming out of your wall. Is that actually going to matter? Is that going to make your sound different? Is it going to make you feel or play differently? Well, without a spoiler, yes, actually. Very much so. We get into why, and we discuss all of that stuff and why you might need something like the BrownBox. And we also talk about their careers, because they took a rather unconventional path to owning and running a gear company, especially one that is so well regarded by so many professionals. It's really, really a cool story. I think you're going to enjoy this very, very much. They are based in Nashville, and speaking of Nashville, I am actually headed back to Nashville the week of July 16th, so I will be back there for a few days. I'm not sure how much time I'll have to actually, hang out and all that stuff, but I'm going to try to squeeze in at least one or two hangs. So hit me up if you are hearing this and you want to hang out or something. I'll see what I can do. That is July 16th. I'll be back in Nashville, so hit me up via info@tonemob.com, the socials, all that good stuff. You know where to find me. All right, without further ado, let's get into this episode with Cassandra and Clark from AmpRx. Here we go. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Tone Mob Podcast, the show about guitar stuff, occasionally, sometimes. I'm your host, Blake Violin, and with me today, I have Clark and Cassandra from BrownBox. What's going on? How you guys doing?
Ooh. It's a beautiful day today in
Is it?
Tennessee. Oh yeah.
Nice. I was just down there a few weeks ago. It was pretty nice. Well, it was a little scattered, but mostly nice while I was down there. Tennessee can get crazy.
True that, and it will just change on you as well.
People
like nice outside for a while, and then it just gets super hot or cold or rainy or something.
People say that about Oregon, but I've been to Tennessee enough. Like, Tennessee's way more all over the place than Oregon is. Like, we can't even come close.
Right on.
So I want to get into your guys' story. I think BrownBox is one of those items that people have seen around, and it's like one of those almost like cult items at this point, where if you like play with tube amps, especially if you're touring, a lot of people know about it. But you guys kind of came into it later. By the time we had gotten hooked up together, I had not been aware that there'd even been a change of hands and that you guys were running the show. So let's just take each of your stories and how you guys met, and then how you guys came to be running this company. Let's go way, way back.
Take it, Cassandra.
Wow. Well, that's a winding road of a story. If you're ready.
That's what podcasts are for.
Clark and I met, I guess, 5 years ago on stage, no less. We're both
Whoa.
professional musicians. I'm known to be a fiddle player, and Clark's known to be a bass player, and we were playing together in Nashville. And legend has it,
She was standing in my spot. And I was playing with this particular artist downtown, and I show up to this gig just like any other Saturday that I'm playing with this artist, and there is this woman who is standing where the bass player, whenever I'm on the gig, normally stands. And I said, I don't know who you think is playing here, but who I'm playing with is playing here. I don't know if you got double booked or like what's going on. And she was like, oh no, I'm playing with her. And I was like, okay, like, okay, well, like that's sort of where that's where I stand, we'll work this out. And she goes, I'll fight you for it. So I stood in the back where the bass player is supposed to stand for the rest of the gig. And that's how we met each other.
I stood in the front.
There you go.
That's a legend. That's how legend goes.
Yeah, that's the story.
Wow.
So many things happened since then, but as we'll just get this out of the way, we are involved personally and professionally. We are business in our partners in business and in romance. So yes, Clark and I are together. We met on stage that day, and we've done a lot of things together since then. And I think that the biggest turning point, of course, as it was for most people, was the pandemic, right? So we were playing together pretty much full time leading up to 2020. And when things changed, as they did for everybody, we decided sort of to change together as well, or to try some things out. So we actually got into flipping real estate in Nashville. So
Whoa.
We were like, you know what, this is bad. We're talking like early 2020 days when we're like not sure really when anything was going to come back, like what the world was going to look like. And we were kind of just like, well, we're not going to sit around. Let's do something. So we ended up flipping a house together, and it went so well that we did that a few more times. And, as we started playing again, like, because we still consider ourselves musicians, and still were and are playing professionally. We were sort of working out, doing house stuff and doing music stuff in between as things came back, as they did, of course. Around the third house, we decided to sell it. And after that, I said, I don't want to be a construction worker anymore. I'm totally over this. It was really fun while it lasted. That was great. But we need to move on and do something different, because the demolition queen is going to take off her crown. I'm done. Within a week of selling that house, we found out that the previous owner of BrownBox, wanted to sell his business.
And so Pat
Convenient.
actually posted on Instagram that he wanted to sell his company. And so we said, wouldn't it be crazy if we took this capital that we had from selling the house and bought this manufacturing business? Cassandra knew Pat. She was on the roster for using a BrownBox because she used a BrownBox with her Marshall stack that she used with her electric violin. And so she knew Pat and knew the product. We did our research, and we were like, man, this is a product that's really great. Pat may not be the best at manufacturing. He may not be the best at marketing, but there's an excellent product here, and we think we can run with it. And then 6 months later, here we were
in a U-Haul
with all of Pat's stuff back to Nashville, Tennessee.
Yeah.
So where was Pat based? Where was BrownBox initially?
In Maryland.
Maryland. Okay.
Yeah.
And obviously you knew about the product and you'd used it before, but did you have any like hesitation? Obviously you're not afraid of doing some hard, dirty work, flipping houses and construction. I've done a lot of construction myself. It's not for the faint of heart. But manufacturing is a completely different kind of difficult, in my opinion. There are some similarities, but it's a very different process. Did you have any help or guidance along the way, or did you just dive in with both feet and figure it out?
A fun fact about Cassandra is that she actually has an engineering degree. The secret sauce of the team. She has a degree in engineering. She's an IE.
Like industrial and manufacturing engineering.
Well, that's convenient. You guys are wearing a lot of hats over there that I feel like maybe you're a slightly undercover. That's wild. So that, I feel like that is a piece of the story. So you knew, you had a very good handle on what to do then.
Well, I'll answer. You said, do we have any hesitations? And I think that yes, we had a lot of hesitations, but sort of in our household, there's a phrase that gets thrown around quite often, and this is the question that we ask each other, and we ask our team and our friends, and we say, "Are you down to clown?"
Oh, I use that phrase all the time. Yeah,
because we are down to clown.
Mm-hmm.
We're always getting into something. Like one of my philosophies in life is that whatever it is that you want to try to do, you can always find a way to try to learn how to do something. So whatever mountain it is, it might be really tough to get to the top of it. It might take a lot of training. It might take a lot of time and resources, but I don't think that anyone should exclude themselves from any opportunity before it ever happens. I think a lot of people write themselves off before the questions are really asked. And so, that's sort of one of my guiding principles, and definitely was something I called upon when we were making this decision. As far as it seemed like the perfect recipe for success for us. I had used the product. I knew that it was a great product. I knew that it was like a cult following type of product. I knew the owner. I was, we had just sold this house a week prior. I was like, I'm not doing demolition anymore. I got to get out of this construction zone. And I had spent a lot of time as a musician within the gear world, I guess you would say. I've been to a ton of NAMs. I was always really involved in the artist endorsement stuff. And I felt like I knew a lot of people that were within the manufacturing industry, just at least from the capacity that I was operating in before. And then I have this network of my friends and colleagues who actually did grow their manufacturing engineering careers. I knew that I would have a lot of people to call on to ask for guidance, learning assistance, things like that. So it felt like the perfect storm, actually.
So taking a few steps back, because I want to see how this all tied together, or rather maybe more of what the journey looked like. So you went to school for all that. You have friends and colleagues in the engineering side, but I feel like you, at least based on the way you guys are telling the story, you both were mainly musicians before the pandemic shut down. So am I reading that right? And if so, how did you make that transition?
So I went to school, and then I got a corporate job working sort of adjacent to the field. I was in technology consulting and worked for a company called Accenture. That's a big management and technology consulting firm for 3 years. And during that period, I came to the realization that I wanted to be a full-time professional musician. I needed to find out what that meant. So, things were different then. It wasn't, for me, in my perspective, the way that I grew up, I wasn't around a lot of people who were full-time professional musicians. I didn't know what that meant. There wasn't so much access as there is now to understanding what people's lives are like. So I went with sort of the route that was in front of me. And I will say that I really did love what I learned in industrial engineering. It wasn't just something that I did to pass the time. I do really like the field a lot. It wasn't like that. But I realized that this job, I wanted to quit and be a full-time musician. And that's what I did for about 9 years.
Wow.
I've always been interested in entrepreneurship, and Clark and I got into the real estate entrepreneurship side of things before we met each other, actually. Just lightly, nothing compared to what we deal with now, but sure. I I've always had like the entrepreneurial mindset. And I think that's actually one of the reasons I was successful as a musician. Just into things like that. But yeah, Clark and I were both totally full-time musicians. I was 9 or 10 years and you were like more than 10 years, right?
Yeah. That's really all.
And Clark.
Yep.
Go ahead.
That's all I'd really done besides teaching. That's been my career after I have a degree in jazz music, which is a far less helpful than an IE degree. It's really a piece of paper that says that I played jazz for 4 years collegiately. And then I moved to LA and joined a rock band. I basically went to jazz school to learn that I did not want to play jazz all the time. Despite learning a lot of theory and a lot of that stuff and like definitely loving it, then that rock band moved to Nashville, and that's how I ended up in Nashville.
Got it.
Then being a for hire musician since landing in Nashville. But I basically before the pandemic, if you had asked me what I do, I would respond with one word, and that word would be bass. Like that's me. That's what I do. Up and down. I'm the bass. I want to be the bass guy. Whether that's sessions or live or on the road or whatever. And I think it took the pandemic for me to learn that there are other things that I can do. And there are skills that I developed through being a bass player that I can apply to other things. Really, I just like puzzles. And I like figuring things out, whether it's, how to play this lick off of this record, or if it's like there's water upstairs, but we want to add a bathroom downstairs. How do I do that?
Mm-hmm.
And I eventually get tired quicker of the plumbing stuff than I do the bass playing stuff, but it's all problem solving. And I really dug it. And when like going out and playing gigs wasn't an option, it like really saved me like mental health wise and all of that to have different puzzles to go through. And the house stuff was so much fun. I really enjoyed it. So that's kind of my side of things. In the puzzle, finding things, the manufacturing works well because it's like, how can we replicate this and get a good quality product for people? And also something that Cassandra and I love. It's like, in manufacturing, you're making a product, and then when the person gets the product, they play their instrument. Mm-hmm. It's awesome. And then they're like, man, like we think about the first 30 minutes that somebody is spending with a BrownBox or really whatever you're buying, you're like, it influences you to pick up your instrument and to play. And as players, that's super important to us.
Yeah, 100%. So let's talk about BrownBox. We've kind of went down this little trail with me knowing what it is, and you guys obviously knowing what it is, but there's a chunk of the audience that may not know what it is. It's a very specific device that does a very important thing. So maybe let's talk about that before we go too off the rails and get people, well, tell us what the BrownBox is. They keep saying this word. Sure. What is it?
The BrownBox is an AC voltage optimizer. That is the new wordage that we're using because it technically is an attenuator. And for those people in the guitar world, when you use the word attenuator, a lot of people associate signal attenuator, which the BrownBox is not. So we are going to use the word optimizer, and it sounds
optimizer.
Optimize.
Yes.
I just happen to have a BrownBox right here. So this is a BrownBox. This is what it looks like. Looks a lot like what's on my hat and what's on her shirt. And basically what it does is it supplies the correct AC voltage to your guitar amp. So the guitar amp wants to run at a particular voltage. You plug your amp into the BrownBox. You move these knobs around. It changes what's said on the screen. Whatever the screen says is the voltage that's being set to your amp. And then that's it.
And the main reasoning behind this, right, is that voltage, while we think of it, it's like, oh, it's all just like 120, right? Coming out of the wall. That's what it's supposed to be. It's not. It varies wildly. Now, some regions are a little more consistent than others. I'm fortunate that it's fairly consistent where I'm at here in the shed, but I've also seen it be all over the place. So what does an amp typically like to see, generally speaking?
They're all over the place. It really depends on what year. Like, the most important thing is what year the amp was made. Back in the 50s and 60s, the wall voltage was actually 110. A lot of people don't know that. So they made amps designed for 110 because that's what's coming out of the wall. So that's what the transformers are. That's what all the parts are. And actually, that's what the people making the amps designed the amps to run at 110. Fun fact, they actually upped the voltage to make the street lights brighter from 110.
That's why they did it?
That's why they did it.
Oh,
I've learned so much about voltage being in the BrownBox industry. So that's why they changed it to 120. They could change it even higher, but that's why they changed it to 120. And there were steps along the way. So some amps want to see 110, some amps want to see 115, some amps want to see 120. And then there's a taste thing. So maybe you have an amp that's made yesterday, but you want to run it at 117. We suggest that you get it below 120 or at 120, which we call in the safe zone. And then you can dip it down just a little bit, and maybe 117 is your magic number. And then no matter where you are playing, so you're playing at this different club or this different club, you plug in, you see what voltage you're getting, and then you can set it to 117.
So is there any, and I realize this may be a specific question for amp manufacturers, but you guys obviously deal with this all the time. I think we're pretty used to knowing, hey, if you put too much power into something, that's bad, that will blow it up, etc. Can you underpower it and have damage? Obviously, you can underpower it and have it not work, but will there actually be any permanent problems from underpowering something?
The main issue is that it just won't work.
Okay.
If it's underpowered, the components just won't turn on, if you will. There's, like, the risk associated with the overpowering is a lot greater than the risk with underpowering. That being said, people do ask us a lot, like, can I run it at 90? Like Eddie, get the real brown sound. The BrownBox doesn't allow you to go that low. So we've sort of identified what is the safe zone. And you using this, you really wouldn't be able to get there anyways. Got it. Yeah.
And what is the safe zone?
It's really like we want you to be below 120.
Got it.
And it's like the lowest that it'll go, and it depends on what you're giving it as an input. It's about 105 or 108.
Okay, so fairly low.
So it does fluctuate with the wall voltage. If the wall voltage changes, it can change as well. But it's like a pedal. You can go over and change it. You feel like something is different, or you can see the voltage is different, then you can just change it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is one of those interesting things. I think people hearing about it for the first time maybe didn't even realize was something they needed to think about, or could be a factor. We go and we're playing in different places. We're experiencing different rooms, and we know that rooms sound different. And some nights, everything's just on and it's great. And some of that has to do with the room acoustics, of course. But now I'm wondering, hey, I wonder if, there's people who go and they have just a banging night, or if they have a terrible night, if there's a little bit at play with the voltages, and it's just something that you wouldn't even know to look at before hearing this episode or before finding you guys. Have you ran into just wild swings that you were able to correct?
Wild. Absolutely wild. I mean, especially like in Nashville, you can get, like, on Broadway, it's typically over 125 down there.
Whoa.
So not only does your gear not feel correct while you're trying to perform with it, people are blowing up transformers all the time. They're having to replace tubes all the time. But we hear, like, that's the most typical story. It's like, I played Friday night, everything was slamming. It was great. I was totally connected to my instrument. My amp sounded perfect. It's like what I've always wanted to sound like. And then I went to the next place 6 hours down the road, on Saturday and everything was wrong. And I couldn't figure out why.
Same guitar, same amp, same shirt, same everything. Or like you go and play that one club and you're like, man, my tone is always killing at the Gray Eagle or whatever it is. You're like, man, I love this club. It very well could be that like that club, it just happens to be supplying the correct voltage that you like for your amp or whatever it is. And guitar players, like, you know, I totally did this as well as a bass player. I just plug into the wall and it either turns on or it doesn't.
Yeah.
Sure. Absolutely.
Society, we totally take electricity for granted. You plug it in, is it on? Great. Oh my God, it's not turning on. What? Like, you know, but the outlet, I'm plugging in an outlet. How could it not be working? You see, people lose their minds whenever we lose electricity for a couple hours.
Right. Oh yeah.
Storm, you know what I mean? So we take it totally for granted. We don't think about the quality of it a lot of times. And, you know, the fact of the matter is that we're talking about electric instruments. It is the absolute basis for the sound. You're combining your thoughts with electricity to create what you want to create. And the quality of what you're combining with your thoughts the quality of your thoughts and the quality of the electricity is going to determine what the final product is. And it's the number one ingredient when it comes to creating music like this in this fashion.
Yeah, which this entire podcast, this entire community, everything is all based around electric instruments primarily, and yet that is such an afterthought. The only time people really even think about it, I feel like, is when they're traveling to a different country and it's just a completely different, they need an adapter or whatever. Or can I run this pedal at 18 volts or can I run this pedal at whatever, 12 volts? There's a lot of that gets discussed, right. But never anything about the amps, which is an interesting thing that you guys are bringing to the conversation for sure.
Hi, I'm Vincent, and I'm here to talk about the Mercury X. My dad's always going on and on about how cool Maris is. He really went off on one about the Mercury X the other day. He said something about a 4800 hertz sample rate and 99 preset locations and 33 banks, and something along the lines of the most advanced reverb pedal ever devised by man? That's all true, but I only care about one thing. This pedal sounds sick. So make sure you check out the Mercury X and all the other fine products at maris.us, as well as fine retailers worldwide. All right, Dad, now can I have my talkie?
How exactly do artists get their music on Spotify, Apple Music, Deezer, Tidal, all these services? How in the world do you get your music there? Well, in the past, you had to use something called a record label. But these days, you can use DistroKid. DistroKid is the absolute easiest way to get your music up on streaming services. And it's the most affordable way to do so. Not only do plans start at $22.99 for the entire year, that's less than $2 a month, DistroKid also does not take a cut of your streaming revenue, unlike some other services out there. Even better if you sign up by going to tonemob.com/distrokid. That's tonemob.com/distrokid. One more time, that's tonemob.com/distrokid. You'll get 30% off. That's right, 30% off their already extremely reasonable prices. So go to tonemob.com/distrokid and get your music out there. We are brought to you today by Sweetwater, specifically the Gear Exchange. You may have heard about this. This is a place where you can go to buy and sell your used gear. Maybe you got a pedal over there that's just kind of collecting dust. Maybe there's something you've been eyeing from the Sweetwater catalog. Well, right now is a great time to turn that unused gear into something you're actually going to use. Even better, if you sell on the Gear Exchange, you can keep 100% of the sale as long as you choose a Sweetwater gift card as your payout method. That is not too shabby because, Let's be honest, most of this buying and selling we do is just to fund new gear purchases, and that is a great way to reach a wide variety of customers and keep 100% in your pocket, or rather on your pedal board. So go check out the Sweetwater Gear Exchange and turn that unused gear into something that's actually going to help you write that next huge riff. So outside of the BrownBox, now that you had this up and running, are you guys looking at other areas where you can condition or manipulate power, or are you going to go with a completely different thing, or just focus on this for a while?
So we do have rack units as well, which a lot of people don't know about. And you can plug multiple amps into these rack units. And we actually have like a stereo version of our rack unit, so it can handle up to 8 amps.
Oh, nice.
And you can run 2 different voltages. So that's the main thing that we are like trying really hard to work on right now. We also have the international version. Like you said, it's completely different over there, different plugs. If you're taking your gear over there, then it's different. So we're working in that sort of area right now, without saying too much.
Sure.
There will be a release, and I don't have the boss's approval to tell you what it is.
No.
It will be in the same region of products, but it will be a little bit different. And we're hoping for a Q4 release for that.
Cool. Very cool.
That's what's on the horizon for us.
But yeah, so everything is pretty much in the power realm, in the AC power realm as of today. And I think that, you mentioned earlier in the conversation that the BrownBox and all of our products are sort of cult following types. It's a cult following thing. And most people take electricity for granted. We have a lot of room to grow within this one area, and a lot of education to provide. So, we are sticking with that and trying to make sure people know what we do, why it's important, how it can help them before we move on to any other amp stuff.
We do have EMI filtering inside of the rack mounts. Mm-hmm. So there is some filtering because there's more room in the rack mounts. I could see us adding more stuff like that in the future. But that's where we're living at the moment.
So that actually dovetails nicely into my next line of questioning, because I'm a dingus and I don't know much about this stuff. So when people are talking about, obviously everybody's seen a Furman, everybody has heard the word power conditioning, at least if you've been around the gear world for any length of time or in studios. And people have heard about clean and dirty power. But I don't think that most people actually know what any of that stuff means or does. Can you shine some light on that?
There are a bunch of different schools of thought as far as what you can and what you can't do to power, without getting too heady about this. Again, this is something that we're researching, and this is not something that we do currently besides just like normal filtering. But
sure.
From what I understand is a lot of the Furman products will take problematic frequencies out of the power.
Mm-hmm.
And basically they find what the most problematic things are that can affect noise and can affect tone and just running things correctly or running things well or cleaning the power, if you will. And that's what it does. They also have products that will manipulate the voltage, sort of similar to the BrownBox, but it's plus or minus 5%. Mm-hmm. So it will switch, but it will be anywhere from 115 to 125. So for like what we are pushing, what we believe in, that's way too large of a range to make sense for voltage is concerned. Mm-hmm. I think some of the Furman stuff is like a really well-made power strip. And like for that purpose, it's great as well. But it's, as far as I know, it's like taking out problematic frequencies and helping the power in that way. It's like, I don't know if it's really manipulating it all that much. There's a few different tricks that you can use, and without actually have opened any of them, I can't tell you what the PL Plus or PL Pro or whatever it is exactly does. I do know that you can split the power into two different ones and like flip the phase of one, and so that it lines up differently. Like you can do stuff like that. But without like talking about specific products, I don't really know.
There's also people who say that you can't clean power,
Right.
that it doesn't exist. I don't necessarily agree with that, but I mean, we've had a lot of conversations that are scientifically based that say that you can do these things and they are effective and that they help people. And in fact, we do recommend that if you have a Furman, you plug your BrownBox into the Furman because it's, providing a great product with better power. Why not?
Sure.
We consider Furman friends of BrownBox, not a really competitor at all, especially because of the voltage thing that Clark mentioned.
100%.
But like there are people out there that think that you cannot clean power. It doesn't exist. That's what they think.
Well, I guess if they're talking about, if you're talking about, flipping phase and having it cancel things out, I'm just, I'm not an engineer of any stripe, so I'm just saying things here. But if you're doing it like that, I guess if somebody wanted to get real picky about it, I can envision why they might say, oh, it's not actually cleaning the power, quote unquote. Sure. I get that. But if effectively what you're getting is a quieter signal at the end of the day,
right?
I think the term doesn't matter that much as long as people can understand the end result. So
totally. And talking to people at Furman, and we've had conversations with Furman people that went really well and they were really nice, but it's like, until I actually open one up and I can see exactly and I can explain everything that's happening, I feel like I shouldn't try to speak intelligently about what a Furman product does.
That makes sense. Yeah.
But I do know that there are tricks that you can do to clean the power, quote unquote. And also a lot of it has to do with grounding, and like there are a bunch of like more expensive products that you actually install a grounding rod with a super heavy transformer. And so some studios will buy these products and it will send a lot of the dirty signal through this grounding rod. Those products are super expensive, but it does great for noise. But also like you can buy all these products and then have a dimmer switch in your studio and you get buzz.
Yep.
And you could have like $20,000 worth of filtering equipment, and then you put a dimmer switch and you're not going to be able to do anything except for take that dimmer switch out.
I actually have a story about this that I've told on the podcast before, but it's been a few years. So a friend of mine built a extremely nice studio, installed a lot of the same equipment that you're talking about, isolated transformers, blah, 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 its own ground, all that stuff. Did all of the things. And there was a terrible whine in the studio. And this is a extremely nice studio. Like, costs way more than my house. Beautiful place. And it was driving them crazy. They were going crazy and could not figure out what it was. They tried everything. And they finally one day... I don't know how they found it exactly, but they turned off their invisible electric dog fence that surrounded the property, and that killed it. That was what was causing the problems. And it wasn't even hooked to the studio itself. It was hooked to like the main house power. So yeah, you never know with some of this stuff how it's going to interfere. And I don't think anybody would have ever considered that.
I bet that was even a separate power drop too.
Mm-hmm. It was.
Oh my gosh. That's insane.
Yeah. And it's not like a, billion acre estate, but it was probably a couple acre property. So it wasn't like it was all close together. It was pretty far away and still was causing noise. You never know with some of this stuff. Meanwhile here, I've got not a separate drop, but this is fed by its own power, has its own ground and everything. And it's super quiet out here. And I even have a dimmer switch. somehow I got away with it.
Nice. That's great.
See, people email us all the time and they're like, oh, I'm having this, I have this noise in my amp. Will the BrownBox solve this issue that I'm having, or in my studio or whatever? And I'm like, maybe. Like, I hope so, but like, I don't know. Do you have any of these 10 things? Do you have a dimmer switch? Do you have an electric fence?
Right.
Do you have, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of
LED
times,
light bulbs,
right?
Like,
A
yeah,
lot of times it does help and it will solve something right away, but I just can't say with complete authority what the root of the issue is sometimes.
100%. Yeah, I think people can pull their hair out chasing these things.
Oh yeah.
And you never know. There's so many sources of noise. And, you know, if everybody looks at you guys are intimately familiar with this, but you look at the back of any electronic device, they're like, basically it says this thing must accept interference whether you want it to or not.
Yeah.
According to the FCC. So, you know, you're kind of at the mercy of whatever signals are coming in your space. You know, you can't control it all, unfortunately.
So, like, to this whole point about what you said is like, you know, you can tear your hair out trying to figure out what that sound is, what that little buzz is, like why it doesn't sound right, and like all of these things. And part of the point of what our product does is to just take one of those factors away.
Mm-hmm.
So you always know, at least I know I'm giving this thing 116 volts, and I know that works for these tubes, and I know that works for these gear, for this gear. Go tear your hair out about something else. I'm taking away that as a factor for you to tear your hair out about.
100%.
You know,
or you do what I do. You just turn everything up so loud there's always noise, and that's just what it is. Yeah,
there you go.
It doesn't matter. Yeah, so you don't got to worry about it, right?
No problem.
Different.
Yeah,
cool.
It's not a bug. It's a feature.
Exactly.
That's funny.
So let's get into gear a little bit, because this is supposedly a gear-based podcast. So I actually am very curious about this full Marshall stack electric violin rig. Let's talk about that. I want to know more. This is the first time I've had an electric violinist on the show.
So I play acoustic violin. That's how I started. But I actually, whenever the dark side and started playing rock violin when I was about 11 is when I got bit by the bug of that.
Nice.
And eventually I ended up playing electric violin, and I have a 7-string flying V electric violin that's fretted.
What?
That's what I play, and that's what
That's
I use.
amazing.
It's pretty sick.
It's pretty sick. Yeah.
Who makes that?
It's a company called Wood Violins. They're based in Long Island, and I was fortunate enough to know the luthiers of that company, and I had a really close friendship, like family friendship, with the guys who built them, who both of them have since passed away, but they're a major inspiration for us, for me and our business and everything. And I went to many a NAMM with them, for example, you know. So that's who makes them. Wood Violins is still around, but these guys that made mine, they're gone now, but I have my violins in memory of them.
Cool.
So I've played through many different rigs, and I have a large assortment of what I do with my violin. A lot of times, this is not this is popular in the violin world. It won't be popular with your audience. I actually do like going direct with my violin sometimes. It's the pickups are piezo pickups actually, so there's a lot of flexibility as far as what I can process it with. But at that time when I was using the BrownBox, I was using the Marshall, I was using a tube amp, and since we have BrownBox now, and I started messing around with tube amps and like the amp that I built and the amps that I've salvaged and things like that, I've played my violin through a lot of those too, and I really do enjoy it. Basically, I can process it however I want, and the 7 strings, the 3 bottom strings are on the low end. So
Thank goodness.
Yeah, no.
Yes.
The violin does not, especially electric violin, does not need to go any higher. That's like a major red flag if somebody wants to do that. But yeah, that's the rig that I play through.
Do you use any pedals?
Yeah, absolutely. So I keep it pretty simple. And recently with all these like pedal companies coming out, and just like now that I feel like I'm bombarded with access to content about all these different pedals and everything, and I'm like, man, I really need to round out my pedal collection and start doing some more weird stuff. But I like to play with like always a little bit of overdrive, and I mess around with more time effects than anything else, actually. So I'll do a bunch of different reverbs. I have some echo pedals and stuff like that. More than anything else, I do have a bunch of like heavy distortion pedals. I don't love it that much.
No,
No, not for this particular instrument that I have.
that makes sense. Yeah, because I think that there's so much frequency content in an electric violin that you don't necessarily need to add more harmonics and stuff to it. It can get a little bit much.
It's a lot.
Makes sense.
It's a lot. And I do know some guys who have like totally refined that sound. Like I know some guys who have nailed it, just totally nailed it. The super distorted sound, low end kind of stuff. It's just not what I love so much.
Mm-hmm.
I like more space violin kind of vibes.
That's cool too. What were some of like those reverb and echo pedals that you really like?
Oh my gosh, what was it? I borrowed one. I had to give it back.
Use the Hall of Fame.
I use the TC Electronic Hall of Fame, and I use the
Is this the pedal that we used for all the space stuff for that one record?
No, that one I oh no, I didn't have it for the record, I guess.
Okay.
I like space stuff.
I have a JHS, the Lucky Cat.
Oh yeah.
I have
yes.
Lucky Cat delay. That's the one that I use, but it's the black one.
Very nice.
The blacked out one. I use the Mojo Overdrive from TC Electronic that I love. I love that with my violin, but I've also had it for like, oh my gosh, I've been playing that for like more than 10 years or 12 years or something like that.
Oh yeah, that one's been around.
I haven't tried another one.
Really?
Yes, like since then I haven't tried another one, and that's what I'm saying now, especially now that like I do the BrownBox Instagram, and like my whole feed is like all these different pedals, and I'm like, I don't even know where to start actually.
Yeah,
because there's so
you
many.
Start by going to Eastside. Now that they've got their new place up and running, just go over there and just be like, guys, let's plug in and rock. And that's where you start.
With the electric violin. Don't say
anything. They'll freak out. They'll love it.
Awesome.
Clark, you figure out, tell them about your rig a little bit. I want to find out what that one pedal was.
Yeah, it was awesome.
It was amazing. And actually I had to borrow it from somebody, and they actually asked me to give it back, which I was like really disappointed about because I loved it.
Yeah, Clark, what do you play in? So I am primarily a guitarist, but like the last two instruments that I accidentally bought were basses, and
what were they?
So I've got
how do you accidentally buy a bass?
It's happened to me before.
You slip, and then your wallet falls out on the table, and the card goes in the. Yeah, you just accidentally buy a bass. No, how it happened is because I walk into a couple of music stores here that I love locally, and I just go in there just to say hi and look around, and I don't necessarily expect to buy anything, but the last few times, so the one time I walked into Paradise Guitars here in Portland, and I walked out with an Orville Thunderbird bass just because it was there, and
that's cool.
It needed to come home with me. It just looked so cool, and I love it. Then the other time I was at Hank's here in Portland, and I walked out with a 70s Epiphone ET280 with the humbuckers, which is kind of like their Wiltshire-looking bass thing. And I saw it, and I was like, it's too cool. I have to have it. And
that's awesome.
Like, I don't even own a bass amp.
That's hilarious.
Yet. So yeah, what's your rig look like? Maybe I can get some inspiration.
Well, for rig stuff, I've been playing Aguilar for almost 10 years. So I love Aguilar amps. That's what I take on the road with me. They've been great to me for a long time. I've got Aguilar sitting here Aguilar cabinets are great. I actually use their Class D stuff most of the time just because it's so light. It goes in the bag and it's great. If I'm tracking here at the house, I've got a 63 B15 that I just love. And what's so funny about, and I didn't know this. Yes.
Are you talking about the amp?
Yeah, the one that's right over there.
Tell them about the amp.
It supposedly was Charlie Daniels.
What?
Which
For real?
You know how these stories
we have a
are.
paper that says it was Charlie Daniels.
Yes. So you know how the stories are, and in Nashville you get gear and people are like, oh, it's we just watched that episode of Seinfeld where the guy bought this guy's car. I don't remember what
Yes.
yeah, he's like, oh, it's this guy's car, and it's like he's like the dentist version of the famous guy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if there's a dentist version of Charlie Daniels, but supposedly this is Charlie Daniels B15, and it's sitting right over there. So if I'm at home and I'm tracking, or if I'm, want that sound while I'm here, I plug into that, and it's perfect. It's like it only sounds good like right at the right settings. Yep. But there's nothing better than that amp at those settings. It just is correct bass.
I've got to get a B15. That's the answer. I need one of those.
You do.
Oh.
Okay. Back to the reverb pedal. So number one, the one that you couldn't remember that we used on that record was the Rainbow Machine.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yep, Earthquaker. Yes.
Magic button.
Yes.
Magic knob. The one that I loved, actually, this is good, and I'm so glad that you actually brought this up. And it makes even more sense that you brought it up. It's a Mr. Black pedal.
Oh, yeah. Which one?
From Portland. From Portland, Oregon. The Supermoon.
Oh, yes. The Supermoon is one of my favorite reverbs of all time. I've got multiple versions. Jack's a good friend. I love the Supermoon. Love it.
That was the one that somebody let me borrow for a tour, and then I hoped that they would forget that I had, and they totally did not forget that I had it. That's the one that I should buy.
We need to get a Supermoon here.
Yeah.
Yeah, or a Blood Moon. Blood Moon's kind of like the Supermoon, but it's a little darker, which might be good for the violin.
That's cool.
And it goes full wet dry, if that matters to you. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe it does. But
that would be cool.
Blood Moon's really nice. Or you get the Eclipse, which is the stereo version that has the classic Supermoon and the Supermoon Chrome, which is the brighter, more gnarly version of the Supermoon. So there's lots of different Supermoons you can put your hands on. But Blood Moon's my personal favorite.
Okay, noted.
Yeah.
I was like, when I finally remembered what it was, I was like, oh my God, they're from Oregon. Well.
Yeah, I once in a while, about once a month or so, I go there and drill pedals for him. So
really?
Yeah. That's awesome. That's funny. Yeah, it's just he's like, hey, do you want to do it? I'm like, well, I don't really like. I guess sure. And so I just started doing it once a month. It's really an excuse to go hang out with Jack, if I'm being totally honest.
You can tell me as a fan.
I will. I'll let him know. Yeah, he's an interesting character. He's been on the show before many, many years ago. He doesn't do many interviews, but he graced these weird episodes with his presence. So if you ever get curious, he's on there.
I will. I'll listen to
it. So let's see. What time have we got here? Okay. Well, we're getting close to the end, and I would normally keep going a little bit further, but since there's two, and I've got some classic questions I like to wrap it up with for both of you, maybe this is a good point where I let you take the floor. You can shout out anybody you want to shout out, plug anything you want to plug, say anything you want to say. You're talking to a few thousand people right now, so the floor is yours.
We are updating our website. We will be launching that at the beginning of next week. I don't know when this podcast will be going up, but maybe it's already updated, and you should go check it out. And then you should email Cassandra and Belinda and tell them how awesome they did at the new website.
Mostly Belinda.
And go check out videos about BrownBox. You can follow us on Instagram. It's AmpRx. Amp.rx,
Amp.rx,
which is the name of the company. And feel free to email us if you guys have any questions. Also, Cassandra Sotos and Clark Singleton on Instagram. You can find us there as well. And you can see all of our musical journeys. And I post a bunch of nerdy bass videos.
Yes, nerdy bass videos. All right.
He does.
Like
he has
that.
really, really premium bass content, to be quite honest.
Thanks.
Really, really good at the Instagram content creation game for educational based stuff. It's really good what Clark creates.
Thanks.
One thing I will add to that is that if you are listening to this and you already love BrownBox and you've been playing it for years and you've had a great experience with it, we would love to hear from you. There's a lot of people who are out there already using them and loving them. Artists, everybody that we don't know, you guys, because we took over about 2.5 years ago, and we love hearing from you. We love to know who's playing it. If you've seen somebody playing it, I might not know, so just share that with us. One of the most heartwarming things I get is a nice email from somebody about how BrownBox solved all their life problems and how they love playing guitar even more because of it. So please, shout us out. I love hearing stuff like that.
Perfect. Yeah, and listeners, that'll all be down in the show notes or the description, depending on where you're listening/watching to this. So you can go to the website, you can check out all that stuff. Their Instagrams and all that will be right there, easy to find, so you don't have to hunt around. It's right wherever all the words are on whatever platform you're listening on. So, yeah.
Hello there. I'd like to introduce you to your new best friend, the Chase Bliss Audio Lossy. Lossy is a collaboration between Chase Bliss and Goodhertz. And it's meant to give you some control over those weird digital artifacts that come with very compressed audio. You're hearing it right now. All the changes that are taking place are strictly coming from my playing dynamics. I'm just interacting with the pedal and letting it do its thing. In some true stereo goodness. If you'd like some more details about Lossy, I'd invite you to head over to chaseblissaudio.com. I think you're going to like what you find.
This is the story of Whitney Houston.
This is the story of Kurt Cobain.
Of George Michael, of Otis Redding, of Amy Winehouse, of Michael Hutchence, Bob Marley. This is the story of Prince.
It's a new podcast series
about how they died, why they died, and why we're still talking about them so long after.
It's like nothing you've ever heard before.
It's storytelling.
But it's more than that, because rock stars,
they tell us how we feel. They change our mood.
They change the clothes we wear, the people we hang out with,
the way we remember things.
It's them who give us those ludicrous moments, the ones where you're
jumping around, singing your heart out, feeling understood.
And it's those moments we'll help you remember, the ones you're thinking about right now.
That feeling.
It's
coming soon from Crowd Network.
Just search for Death of a Rock Star on your podcast app.
And subscribe now.
Hey there, I am Johnny Christ from Avenged Sevenfold, and I've got a podcast called Drinks with Johnny you're going to want to check out. I sit down with a bunch of different people from all different walks of life, from professional wrestlers to actors, comedians, fighters, musicians, everything in between. I'm just looking to make some friends and have a good time doing it. So if that sounds like something you're into, go check out Drinks with Johnny, streaming everywhere now.
All right, classic questions. Here we go. And I love, it's been a lot of Nashvilleians on this episode, so we might be able to get very specific because it's my home away from home. But first question, before we get to the food, what is your favorite Boss pedal?
Okay, You go first.
No.
Okay, I'll go first. Okay.
What?
I bet, and I have a feeling that we can get pretty nerdy here. I bet that I will be the only person who says this particular Boss pedal is their favorite pedal.
Okay.
And maybe this is wrong. I'm going to pick the LS. I think it's the LS1.
Line selector?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So,
Oh my God.
I run basically the Billy Sheehan model. We're gonna get nerdy for like.
Let's go. Let's get into it. Here we go.
I use.
Should I leave?
That's okay. You've heard this before. So I split my signal, and I run one clean and one dirty. And Billy Sheehan, for those of you who don't know, Billy Sheehan is a bass player, played with Mr. Big, played with David Lee Roth, and he might just be the electric bass player that's played the most notes on electric bass. And if you can come up with somebody else, let me know down in the comments or whatever where the notes are.
Cumulatively.
Like, I don't...
Notes per lifetime.
Maybe Les Claypool is the only other one I can think of, maybe.
Billy is like 20 years older than Les Claypool.
Yeah, but Les plays a lot of notes per...
He does play a lot of notes. Okay.
You got a point, though. Yeah, I'm with you. Okay.
So, Billy has two different pickups. They go to two different outputs. They go to two different amps.
Double the notes.
He's cheating. So instead of doing that, which I didn't have two outputs, there's one of his basses.
Nice.
He does the two output thing, which apparently the old Rickenbackers had.
Yes.
I only have one output, and so what I do is I go into my pedal board, and I either go two out to two different amps, one clean and one dirty, or if I'm only playing one amp, I'll use the LS1, and I'll basically loop one channel to where it's my clean, and then I take the other channel through my dirty signal, and then I've got the two knobs to where I can turn up my clean and turn up my cleaner, clean. God, I can't.
Do you know
say
what he's trying to say? Turn up the clean or turn down the dirty line?
Yes.
Okay,
so I have two different knobs for the clean and one for
I should
clean and
have
one
that.
for dirty. You should.
Yeah.
That's what I should do.
So that is my favorite Boss pedal. And I can go into one amp or into two amps.
I do stereo stuff all the time. In fact, last night I was running into one line into the Rev G20, used the effects loop out to the Ibanez bi-chorus. So, and then ran one side back in, the other side out to my Silvertone Twin 12, which was clean. But it was only kind of clean because the preamp of the G20 I had set real dirty. But I hadn't sound bathed like that in a while. It was quite an experience for how simple it was, because usually it gets way more complicated than that when I'm getting crazy with pedals. It's like, this is a thick sound right now.
That's awesome. In the guitar community, do people use the line selector a lot for stereo stuff? Okay.
No, they should. It's a great pedal for it. But
I hear that usually people have phase issues, but
yeah, and so that's what happens a lot in guitars. A lot of the times when guitarists run stereo, they're running like mono into something like the chorus or maybe a delay or reverb or something that's stereo out. Then you don't really have to worry about those phase issues because it's time-based and it's moving all over the place anyway.
Sure.
With bass, you're not doing that as much, so I can see where you got to pay a little bit of attention to that. But
yeah,
line selector, I don't know if anyone's ever said that. Maybe one other person.
No way.
That's in like 400 episodes that you might be the only one. Maybe.
Nice.
Wow.
Maybe.
Yeah. It's a great pedal though.
Great pedal. Cassandra.
I don't really have an answer to this because so I feel a little burned. I feel a little like traumatized by this because there was a period of time where there was a lot of electric violinists playing through the orange Boss pedal.
Mm-hmm.
And there is literally nothing worse on earth than the sound of an electric violinist playing through an electric violin through an orange Boss pedal direct into a board, and that's what people were doing, and it was literally it's one of the worst things that you can do. So I don't have an answer because I'm just traumatized.
Is that the OD1?
Yeah,
That'd be the DS one. Yeah, okay. If it's the orange one.
Yes,
which was like the Kurt Cobain special. You know, the thing about the DS one is it's a really great sounding distortion. I've done some like blind, like, hey, what pedal do you think I'm playing? And doing some like really chunky stuff. And a lot of people weren't able to guess it. The thing about it is you basically can't use the tone control above noon. And that's extreme. So it's so shrill. I don't know why they made the range on it. They're such a genius company. Boss has got so many genius designs. I don't understand why the range on the tone control goes as shrill as it does. You basically keep it at like 9 o'clock for guitar. If you go above that, it sounds terrible. And I can only imagine on an electric violin what that would be. It
so
gives me...
It's so shrill. It is literally the worst thing that you can do to a person. The worst thing you can do to a person that's anywhere near you. So
I guess we got to put you in maybe just the TU2 category, right? Just the tuner for now.
I was going to say the tuner, actually.
Most popular answer by far.
Is it really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I thought that was a really lame answer. That's why I didn't give it.
Well, so some of the listeners really don't like that answer. They're like, that's a cop-out. And I'm like, well, some people, that's their most used Boss pedal. What am I supposed to say? No, that's not your favorite pedal? Like,
so I will say that I don't know if this really applies. I had the GT8 multi-effects. It was like it was my first foray into processing electric violin. So I don't think, I mean, me as like a teenager is what I had. So like, I don't think that it's good, but I do. That was how I learned what different sounds were, actually.
Yeah.
So, and that's how I started experimenting. So I should give that as my Boss shout out.
Maybe that's your favorite Boss pedal.
Maybe it is.
It did allow me to learn and grow into the person I am now.
I think you would like a Terra Echo based on the stuff you've talked about. I think you need to try the Terra Echo.
Okay.
That's the one you got to give a go. He said probably has one, so go check it out.
Okay. I want a recommendation on more overdrives to try. Like I played the heck out of the Mojo, but I know there's a billion out there, and I want a good one for me.
If you like the Mojo, which I believe, if I remember correctly, is Tube Screamery-ish, I think. It's been a long time since I played one. And you want to go Boss, the SD1 is going to be, that's kind of their Tube Screamer with asymmetrical clipping. I can't talk today. Asymmetrical clipping. There we go. The violin's interesting because I'm always thinking about how it feels to play with guitar, but a lot of my favorite overdrives probably have too much high-end content for some of that. So, because I like the Greer Lightspeed and the Timmy and some of that stuff, which sounds great on guitar, but maybe too much. So, like, you might want like a more low-end focused. Oh, you know what might be really good? I got one. The Halcyon by Origin Effects. There you have a Tube Screamer.
Oh.
That the way it's kind of hard to explain, but they have a dynamically controlled portion of it where you can set it to, I know everything sort of responds to your dynamics. It's kind of hard to explain, but check out the Halcyon. Okay. That might actually be a really good pedal for the electric violin now that I think about how that works.
All right, cool. I'll definitely check it out.
Yeah.
I use an MXR for my distortion for bass, and I've just used it forever.
Which one?
It's like the MXR DI, but it has a distortion channel.
Oh, okay.
And it also has like bass, mid, and treble, and you can like mix the two. It's got a separate out. It's like a very utilitarian pedal, but I really like the distortion on it. It's got two different buttons. I wonder how it would sound with that. It's funny because both of us have experience playing with distortion on our instruments, not typically distortion-based instruments, and we have both been playing the same distortion pedal for over 10 years.
Interesting.
I had never thought about that.
It's time to break out of the box. Time to find some new stuff.
We should
I
do a
mean,
video about
there
that.
is an element of if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But there's so much to try now.
There's
That's
so
true.
much to try now. I mean, it's like an explosion. I mean, everybody knows it's an explosion.
Oh yeah, I love it. I'm surrounded. Be careful though. It is it is a slippery slope. Then all of a sudden you have a podcast about it and you're surrounded by it in a weird shed in your backyard. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. All right, final question. What is your favorite kind of pizza?
Kind of pizza, or like toppings on a pizza, or
You get as detailed as you're comfortable getting.
you go first.
I love very classic Margarita style pizza. And I lived in New York for 4 or 5 years before I moved to Nashville. And like, I love like coal-fired Margarita pizza. Really classic. But I also, if I have to pick a topping though, I really love Italian sausage. And I'm not afraid to, in an unorthodox fashion, combine those two.
I like it. Yeah.
Margarita pizza with Italian sausage. But if I had to go one for the rest of my life forever, it would just be Margarita pizza, coal-fired.
Do you have some favorite New York pizzeria?
Where did I take you? Did we go anywhere? We didn't, actually.
No,
We didn't.
we had a few of the spots that were like on the street.
When I lived there, I ate from a place called City Pie, like, I don't know, a couple times a week. I don't know if it's still there. It was on 72nd Street on the Upper West Side. I also really loved Patsy's. I lived near to Patsy's, and I had Patsy's a lot. And I think that's really great. And of course, it's Joe's on the Lower East Side, right?
Yeah. Classic Joe's.
Classic.
Yeah.
Joe's Pizza on the Lower East Side.
I do love Joe's. It's good. It's a good, just like quintessential. When I went to New York, that was the first pizza that I had. And I've told this on the podcast too. I was very skeptical. I was like, I don't know, New York pizza looks good. It looks like pizza. Like, how is it going to be that much different? So I had a slice of Joe's. That's when I realized that I was wrong. There is something special about New York pizza, and then we kind of went crazy. So yeah, that's why I asked that question. Clark, what about you?
We have a mutual friend. His name is Daniel Mascali.
Oh, that should have been my answer
And
too.
once a year, he has a pizza party. And he is Italian, and his father makes pizzas for a living.
Oh.
And so his pizza is definitely the best. It's not something that I can recommend that you can go to his house and eat because it only happens once a year. But if you are such invited to this party,
You should go.
you should go. And now that I've given his full name, people might find him.
He's a
and
guitar
show
player,
up to his
too.
house.
Oh, yeah, I'm going to find him. That's right.
Let's jam and give me that pizza.
Yeah.
It's the best.
It's actually the best. It's really, really,
it's really
good.
incredible. As far as recommendations goes, that's not New York pizza. Cassandra and I went to Pinky's in Madison. I don't know if
I've
you've
heard that's really good. I've not been there yet.
Pinky Ring, and it was really good.
It's
It's not New York pizza. It's a little bit different, but I very much enjoyed it. I liked it, but I also like Papa John's. So
Oh my god. Oh my god.
I mean,
I've actually never had Papa John's.
Don't.
And that's what everybody says when I say that, so I don't. I'm like, well, okay, I won't.
you didn't go to a sleepover when you were 14 years old and somebody's mom had Papa John's?
No Papa John's around here that's close by. It's kind of like when I tell people there's not really a Walmart around here. They're like, what? Like, no, there's not. There's one like a half hour away, but maybe and it's the only one in the Portland metro area. There's the Papa John's would be a 45-minute drive for me. I'd have to pass a bunch of really good pizzas to get to Papa
Yeah, right.
So.
Right.
And you'll begin to feel bad before you get back home if you eat it.
That's the thing.
So, like, you won't feel good after you eat it. But if we're just talking about taste, I don't mind it.
Okay.
Okay. To be completely honest, actually, pizza is. I gave like my margarita pizza, my what I'll eat for the rest of my life thing. I turned my nose up at Papa John's, but pizza is in my top 10 favorite foods of all time, and I actually like pizza from anywhere at any time. I will eat it under any circumstances, pretty much.
That's why you showed up to the pizza party.
That is totally true. I don't know if I would have gone if it wasn't a pizza party.
It wasn't a coleslaw party. It was a pizza.
It was not a coleslaw party.
Yeah.
No.
That's a Danny Mascali idea, actually.
That's true. His idea is that he's going to have a party and he's going to tell everybody to bring coleslaw. You know how you have a party and it's like,
what can I bring?
Who's going to have drinks? This person brings hot dog buns, blah, blah, blah. And we're going to have a party and everybody's going to bring their version of coleslaw. But no one's going to know that everyone's bringing coleslaw. And then you'll just have coleslaw.
I might leave.
Popular.
I might
You
just
would leave?
Yeah. I think I would leave. Well, first of all, I probably wouldn't bring coleslaw because I don't really eat coleslaw.
Where did you get the pizza from the East Side party from?
That was from 5 Points.
5 Points Pizza. See, you know what I like about 5 Points is the cornbread on the bottom of the crust.
I do too. Yeah.
I love cornbread. Cornmeal is what I meant to say. You know what I meant.
Yes.
Cornbread on the bottom of a crust sounds pretty cool, though.
Yeah.
Could be cool.
The cornmeal, that's a very New York thing, too, is City Pie did that. Cornmeal on the bottom.
I love the cornmeal on the bottom. I went with 5 Points because that's a real crowd pleaser.
Yeah.
2 of my favorite spots there. I haven't been to Pinky Ring yet, though I'm told I absolutely must. One of them is Smith & Lentz Brewing. I really like their pizza.
Yeah.
They do a really good job. And then the other one is Bella Napoli, which is like an Italian restaurant that also has like wood-fired pizzas and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Their lasagna's insane. And their 4-cheese, their 4-cheese pizza is so good. I'm missing it already.
So what's your favorite pizza?
I tend to gravitate towards New York style pizzas, but the pizza that like changed my mind on, like, I was kind of like, yeah, pizza's good. It's pizza. How could it not be good, right? But I kind of changed my tune a little bit when this place moved into town about 15 years ago called Mi Familia. And it's like an Italian wood-fired thing. And that was when I realized there's like levels to pizza. I was kind of like, all pizza's good. And I still kind of believe that. But that was the first like gourmet pizza experience I had. And I absolutely love that place. I go there as often as I can. Really, really, really delicious.
Nice.
Yeah. There's some other places in Portland too. Portland's got almost an overload now of good pizza. People email me that all the time. I'm coming to Portland. Where should I eat? And I'm like, this is a big list. This is you will get diabetes if you eat at all these places that I told you in one weekend. So yeah, don't do that. But yeah, I tend to gravitate towards a little bit fancier pies and different things. I like to try new things. So that's the way I try to go. Well, should we see what kind of shenanigans we can get into on Patreon? Does that sound good to you guys?
Yes.
Cool. All right, well, we'll go ahead and hang this thing up. So for Cassandra and Clark, this is Blake. And as always, folks, good luck and good tones. Later.
And we're back out in the yard. Yes, I'm still out here working on my fence, so you can hear the birds and whatnot. Yes, I do. I know, it's hard to believe. I do other things that aren't always on the internet. Yeah, I do like physical work sometimes. It's kind of crazy. Weird, huh? Anyway, if you like this episode, please make sure you check out BrownBox. You can check out Clark and Cassandra's social stuff down at the link in the show notes or the description, wherever the words are on whatever platform you're listening to. That is where you will find the links to all of their stuff. Thank you guys so much for coming on. Thank you so much for listening. And don't forget, I will be in Nashville the week of July 16th. So hit me up if you want to hang out or something. We'll figure it out. Thank you again. I hope you all have a really good time. And oh yeah, don't forget their Patreon episode. Their Patreon episode is legit. So if you've been wanting to support the show, get extra content and all that jazz, definitely check this one out. We get pretty weird with it. And I think I'm going to have them on again. And we're going to get extra weird next time they come back on. So yeah, check that out if it's your thing. And thank you for everything. Please keep supporting the show, sending this to people, all that good stuff. I appreciate y'all very much. I will talk to you on the internet very, very soon.
One last thing before we totally sign off here. I just want to remind you that if you do any shopping at Stringjoy, that's Stringjoy guitar strings made in Nashville, that will help me out as well. As I've said for years, I'm heavily involved in that company, and I really do think they're making the best products on the market. So if you would like to try custom strings, go to tonemob.com/stringjoy and check them out today. I seriously love what the team down there is doing. I help them out with all kinds of things, and by you supporting them, you are also supporting me as well. And hey, you need some strings, so why not get some custom strings just for your guitar and playing style? Again, the link for that is tonemob.com/stringjoy, and that will take you right to their website, and you can do all your shopping through there, and that will help everyone involved out. So thank you very much. Talk to you next time. We are brought to you by the wonderful folks at Gun Street Wiring Shop. Yes, Gun Street Wiring Shop. I've talked about them before. I used to say based out of Bend, Oregon, but guess what? Sean moved to my neck of the woods. Sean's in Portland. Sean is awesome and has helped me with a bunch of stuff lately. And if you have wiring needs for your guitar, he can help you too. If you want to get weird with it, he can get weird. If you just need to spruce things up a little bit, there's your guy. He takes all the guesswork out of doing your guitar wiring, and he makes it simple, and his customer service is top-notch, and I can't say enough good things about Gun Street as a company. I really respect Sean and what he's all about, and the product is top-notch. I've got 3 different guitars that now have Gun Street harnesses in them, and I could not be happier. So go to gunstreetwiringshop.com and check them out.
Hey, what's up? My name's Lurk, and I'm the host of Lambgoat's Van Flip podcast. Every week I have in-depth conversations with bands from all over the scene, big and small. We also like to keep our finger on the pulse and showcase up-and-coming bands on the show as well. So come check out Lambgoat's Van Flip podcast.
Hey, this is Dewey Halpus, host of Peer Pleasure on the Sound Talent Media Podcast Network. Join me each week as I explore another long-form conversation with one of your favorite musicians, actors, comedians, or creatives. From Chino Moreno of the Deftones, John Gorley of Portugal the Man, to Fat Mike from NoFX and Ian MacKaye from Fugazi and Minor Threat, we go all over the map. From Fall Out Boy to Slayer, Peer Pleasure has it all. Check us out now on Sound Talent Media.